Merry Christmas, Ori.
Happy Hanukkah, Easy.
Oh, thanks, man. But Merry
GM.
Week 16. We got a beautiful 10 gamer with really, really clear, good plays. And by that, I mean not that.
Yeah, it's
Weather
the
is
easiest
the
slate of the year, right? I mean,
easiest slate of the year to do. Probably permission to do like almost whatever you want, except for play guys in the Saints and Cleveland game.
yeah,
But
don't do that. Unless you're playing Taysom QB lineups, then go ahead and do that. Not financial advice, GFY, all that.
yeah, dude, if you're playing Taysom QB lineups, tell me what contest you're playing. I'll try and enter them. Hopefully, they're not filled yet. The lobby is kind of trash today, which is unfortunate, but we'll find some good stuff to play. GM Philly and Warsh.
GM.
Start with like a macro, like slate overview. It's a 10-game slate. With obvious weather concerns, I won't beat it to death, and I'm gonna try my hardest to not make everyone drink when I say like don't double count, but all the projections have it accounted for. But like, let's just quick overview. Um, Houston, Tennessee. Like, I let's talk about like cold versus wind. Like, I don't think cold really matters a whole lot without wind. Um, that like there's fairly good evidence. Like once it gets like below freezing, like maybe, but I'm not overly concerned with like Kansas City and Seattle, where that total is like still 49 and a half. But obviously, New Orleans and Cleveland, like I don't think anyone is in play in that game. I mean, I guess running backs, but like there's not going to be any passing there. Buffalo and Chicago is an interesting one where it's going to be pretty gusty in Chicago. And like that's been accounted for. I think that total is down to 40. So, that one might have been like a 45 or 47 kind of total. That's down to 40. So keep an eye out there. Like the Josh, I don't know if it's Josh double stacks or you're probably going to want to go skinnies in that game, but I wouldn't be completely off it. Any other games like stick out to you? Like, of course, like all of these games, like there's like the asterisk, but is there any like clear stayaways that we didn't touch on?
No, I don't think so. I was just going to mention everybody cites the Bales thing where temperature does affect it, but like you said, it's once you get to the below zero stuff, and that is what you're seeing in like the Buffalo Chicago thing. So I
Yeah.
do have some concern there, but I'm playing it. I
Yeah.
feel like it's still a good leverage spot on a slate like this, and
Yeah.
you know
It's a great
Buffalo.
game.
If there's any team that's going to come in and at least attempt to like assert their will despite of the weather, it's the team like Buffalo, like because
Sure.
they like that under short pass game and they really want to pass, and so
Yeah.
I think that if short little passing game stuff is an option, they're going to at least explore it.
Yep. All right. So let's get into quarterback. But we've got the punt, like the old school punt quarterbacks in play this week. Danny Dimes and Gardner Minshew at 4,800. Um, Kirk Cousins at 6,300 in that dome, and then Dak is very cheap, though he hasn't really shown much of a ceiling. I think this top three, just from like a price and like people feeling good about a nice warm dome relative to playing outside, are going to be the majority of ownership and cash builds. Wow, Danny Dimes up to 20%. That is a shocking number, and as a Giants fan, I do not feel great about that. Because then we talked about the weather. Like people are not going to be comfy clicking anyone besides those top couple of guys. Like maybe there's Mahomes. But like as far as like the chalk consensus build, I think is pretty clearly going to be one of these punt type quarterbacks.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree. I will say though, like just looking throughout the industry and shows and stuff like that, like everybody acknowledges that these are the three, cheaper puntish type options, especially for cash. But I
Hmm.
don't know that I've like seen anyone say they're going to play Kirk Cousins,
Yeah,
and I kind of get it too, right? Like 6,300 is a little bit awkward to me for especially in a game where a team like the Giants really wants to drag you in the dirt, like slow the game down and use clock and run. And I don't know. I, for cash, I get it, but I am not interested at all, especially in Kirk
yeah.
Cousins this week. And Dimes is a concern just on that ownership. That's just a
Yeah.
huge number for a team that doesn't want to sling the ball.
Yeah, Dimes doesn't really show like I feel like he's shown more ceiling when the team was worse. And now that the team is like fairly competitive, they don't ask like Dimes just his job is kind of just to not turn the ball over, whereas he's
Right.
not having to play hero ball. My first build had Dimes and it's just like very comfortable build. But for cash, like I would lock in Minshew, and then if you end up having money, like you can pay up, but I don't think that there's any need to.
Right.
I think the optimal is probably going to jam a bunch of that, Giants and Minnesota game. But I would probably lock in Minshew. And then as far as like outside of the domes, the two dome games, who are your favorite kind of quarterbacks?
Yeah, so obviously I'm a little bit of a homer, but I don't think this weather really has much to do with Justin Fields' abilities and what he can do. So I'm going to play some Justin Fields. That again, it's a leverage play, not like a projections play, but
Yep.
3% Justin Fields. I'm going to play some Josh Allen. Like, I mean, the Bears. I mean, I'm not kidding you when I tell you, like, they're playing hot dog vendors on defense. Like,
Yeah.
there is a world where Buffalo just scores a lot of points. They just do it in different ways other than throwing the ball 40 yards down the field. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
one other guy that I'm looking at is Brock Purdy.
Oh boy.
I don't see why, when you look at his obviously small 2-game sample size, but, the way Shanahan has him cooking with that offense with CMC as his check down and Kittle over the middle, and I don't know. They're running a tight ship out there. Washington's in a tough spot going across country on the road to play against that San Francisco defense. Like, I can see a world where Brock Purdy puts up 20 and has a ceiling over 25, and that's
Yeah.
all you need.
Yeah. I don't hate that. I feel like it's not a great game environment. There's not really weather concerns there. It's just like Washington is like a not terrible defense, and obviously San Francisco doesn't really open up the game unless they need to. And I don't know that Brock Purdy is going to be like challenged to like have to keep up with Washington. But I like
Yeah, but did Tampa challenge them? I mean, they kept
no,
their
I mean
foot on the gas a bit.
yeah, I've seen like a narrative around like they might want to see what they have in Purdy, and they might want to save some bullets with CMC for later in the year when they might need him in the playoffs more than they do this Week 16 game. I like the Fields call. His rushing prop is like over 70. Josh Allen's rushing touchdown prop is like one of the best on the slate of any position player. So I like both of those calls at ownership is the asterisk. And then, Mahomes is, just like the classic flip the build. It's just how do you get different with Mahomes teams? We'll talk about that with stacks because they start to look they kind of complete themselves. Like DK Metcalf comes pre-programmed into most of your Mahomes teams. And then I like Burrow. The Bengals like pass volume hasn't been super there because Zach Taylor, I don't know, he like waits until the playoffs until they can actually like and until they need to. The Bengals don't like pass a lot, and I don't know that New England's going to challenge them. But on the road, they may need to play a more competitive game and do Jamar Chase as a baller. New England secondary is super banged up, so it is a good defense, and like the game environment may not be great, but if Burrow is actually 5%, then I think I want to jam Burrow with Chase and like play that game to go over this 41 total, which on this slate is really not that bad.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and if I was, MMEing like 150 maxing, like I could see a world where you played some Geno and some Goff at this ownership level. I know the Goff
yeah,
outdoor thing and all that, but Carolina's pass defense pretty bad, and who knows? Their weapon's not going to be owned allegedly. So I think those things
yeah,
are interesting for like large field MME.
yep. At running back, it's kind of like it's very top heavy this week. CMC, like from a projections perspective, like completely jumps off the page. Derrick Henry, as far as like narrative and like spot, is a really good spot. Those are the two super high price guys. And then Dalvin and Saquon in that same dome game that we were talking about with that huge total. And obviously both have great workloads. Like I've said it for a couple of weeks, like Dalvin Cook has like sneakily one of the best workloads in the league. I mean, outside of like McCaffrey, who gets like 10 targets a week, but Dalvin Cook's role of like 18 to 20 carries and like he's getting like 3 to 5 targets. So I think a lot of the builds is like old school, like punt at quarterback and, 3 pay up running backs. And there's kind of like a clear teardrop after these top 4. And then you start to get into like, which chief are you going to play? Like McKinnon obviously has had 2 really good games in a row. Um, and you have guys like Dobbins and like Miles Sanders and things like that. Um, like how many are you limiting? Here's the question for me as it really, because like I think these top 4 running backs are all very good. Are you limiting like combos? Like, are you doing max 2, max 1 of these top 4?
No, this week I'm playing like my lowest volume that I've played it all this season. I think I'm only playing 10 lineups and I'm
Congrats.
hand building, so I'm just trying to I'm just controlling it that way. But I'm definitely keeping in mind like I'm going to play a couple like big boy running back old school things and try and get different at receiver. And then I'm also flipping the build and kind of taking more of my lineups are going to be the, Dink and Leone talked about it a lot, the whole flip the build and,
Yeah.
get the cheaper running back and try and get that right. And just understand that the top running backs are like they're definitely gonna score points. They're probably
Yeah.
gonna. I could see a world where the top 4 running backs all hit their projection and then some.
Hmm.
And I also think you can still beat that, maybe.
Or yeah,
So
keep
I'm
up
gonna
for
I'm
sure.
gonna be attempting that. So
Who's your favorite of these top 4, or like your top 2?
um,
Ownership
it,
considered.
it's so hard to say because of like basketball bias and just the whole season is coming down to week 16. But I really do like Derrick Henry the most in this group. Like I
Hmm.
love seeing him projected underneath Christian McCaffrey, even though I'm concerned if that's actually true.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons Derrick Henry, everybody knows the stat, right? 43 plays and he ran the ball 32 times last time they played Houston with
Yeah.
Malik Willis at quarterback. But one thing I would say is that since that game, Derrick Henry's really been involved with like 3, 4, sometimes 5, I think, pass targets. And when you have a quarterback like Malik Willis, who literally just can't play quarterback, it seems so far, at least in terms of passing the ball,
No,
one of
no.
the best ways to kind of get them going a little bit is getting a little screen, stuff like that. With Hilliard out, like I could totally see this being a Henry screen game where
Hmm.
he's not going to catch Christian McCaffrey balls, but
No, no.
I can see one of those going for 50 yards.
Yeah. I mean, Malik, the counter to that is that like the run first quarterback, like they just don't target their running backs historically, because
But
they're
it
they're
would be
not looking to that
scripted
dump
game
off
plan.
instead of yeah. If you're
Yeah.
talking like scripted screens to try and get them into a groove,
Yeah.
like I can see that. Like I think 2 or 3 targets for Derrick Henry probably goes a long way,
Yeah.
especially in this matchup. So outside
And
of
my
those top
second choice
4,
is Saquon.
yeah.
Saquon.
Yeah, I really like. I think Dalvin is probably going to be higher owned than Saquon. I think in cash you can pay up for all of Saquon, Dalvin, and CMC, and if we'll see if we can get Henry in there over one of them. Dalvin, I think because he's the cheapest of these guys, is going to get higher owned than Saquon.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, I prefer Saquon over Dalvin.
Yeah.
Um, in a vacuum, and then CMC, I think obviously for me is just my favorite play. Like the combination of like floor and ceiling is just
Yeah.
at his price is like it's still too cheap. As we go down, so like outside of those top 4, like we're talking about, if you want to pay up for receivers instead of running backs, which I do, I'm not playing teams GPP teams with these 3. I think it's like way too hard to get different, and you're like taking it's so much harder to get 20 points out of like Richie James. So we'll see. It's like now we're getting into McKinnon, Pacheco, Dobbins. Like, who's your favorite guy under, let's say, 6K that you like in running back?
I really hate piling on to somebody else's pick, but I really like the Singletary thing from
Yeah,
Dink.
yeah. I think he
Singletary's
does.
price, I mean, he's been 58, 6,100 all season long, right? Now,
Yeah,
now he comes to this weather situation against the worst running defense, and just you got Josh Allen threatening you at quarterback. Like, if Devin Singletary gets his 10 plus carry game, 10, 15
yeah,
carry
yeah.
game, like he's such a smash. So I'm definitely going to be playing him. I also like Leone's
You
Dobbins
can get
called.
18.
I would say those are my 2 favorite. Like Those are
Yeah.
my two favorite picks. J.K. Dobbins is such an absolute gross click in my opinion, but I definitely see the path. And then in terms of spending a little bit more, but not having all that ownership stuff, you guys know my status on Tony Pollard. But if I was going to play Tony Pollard,
Yeah.
and I am playing Tony Pollard, it's this week.
Yeah. I think once you get outside of these top four, like you're going to get everyone at 15% or less. So I like at that ownership and like in a pretty good game environment, I definitely like Pollard. If you're just playing like Minshew keeps pace type thing, like I think Pollard makes a lot of sense. And Miles Sanders too. Miles Sanders had good games with Minshew, and I think there is something like to he had a bad game last week, and they talked about like they didn't give him the ball enough, and like even though he
Right.
fumbled or whatever. So like Miles Sanders has had a history with Minshew, and like he had actually pretty good target share in Minshew games. What like my two favorites are Pacheco, just from like everyone is finally like all over McKinnon, and like Pacheco is actually getting like really good usage, mostly running, but he gets a couple of targets a game too. He's getting like 15 18 carries a game. And if the Chiefs come anywhere close to that 30-point total, I think I want to be over on Pacheco, and then DeAndre Swift at 5,500.
Yeah, I like Swift call.
Because like he finally the last 2 weeks, I believe, led the Lions in snaps at running back, and he's or at least more than Jamal Williams. Only eight carries, 6 carries, like 14 a couple weeks ago, but dude, he had 9 targets last week. I don't know that Carolina is going to push Detroit to have to pass the ball a whole lot. But you see last week, like the Jets, it was a 20-17 game. It's not like a huge shootout that caused 9 targets for DeAndre Swift. So I think, Swift's role now is actually like not that different than what we thought it was going to be at the beginning of the year. But now he's 5,500 and, 8% owned. So I really like taking shots on Swift and Pacheco. As my like kind of cheap-ish plays. And then I'd be remiss if we didn't mention Khalil Herbert at still minimum wherever he is down here with a garbage
Yeah,
projection.
we'll get into Herbie a little bit more later in the show, but Herbert should for sure be, I think, in the player pool.
Yep. At receiver, the because we're jamming running backs, because like the certain like comparative certainty for running backs is just so much better than receiver in this context of like game environments. Justin Jefferson, is gonna be owned on teams that don't pay up, but then you're like on those on every other build, you're getting into this Richie James, like Nelson Aguilar, Jahan Dotson type stuff, and then I think DK Metcalf I talked about, he kind of comes preloaded on any of those Mahomes teams. What are your thoughts as far as like pay up, spend downs at receiver?
Yeah, I mean, I think those top guys, Jefferson, Chase, Metcalf, like make a lot of sense. I think they're good plays, and you know what I like to do? I like to build a case against a guy like Justin Jefferson at 9,300. Like the case for me this week is like, obviously it's an island game, it's on national TV, but like Kayvon Thibodeau really came on. It was super disruptive, and I just
He's
feel
a
like
baller.
what's that?
I said he's a baller.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I feel like there's a world where he can affect Kirk Cousins, and they can really dig into the short under stuff, which Justin Jefferson can eat on that kind of stuff. But that's where I look to more of a Dalvin type game, and Jefferson just to have a really nice game, but just not explode and crush you. The pay up I really like, just that ownership and stuff like that is, I can't even find him on the screen.
No.
I guess he's such a bad play, but Stephon Diggs.
Yeah.
I'm going to play
He's
Stephon Diggs at 4%. Like,
yeah, you'll get him
I get the weather concerns. I totally get it. I really do. But, he's 800 cheaper than Justin Jefferson. No matter what the weather is, they are going to get the ball in his hands some in this game. And the Bears defense is not going to have answers for that. So I love spending up for Stephon Diggs this week.
Yeah. I don't think the Giants are going to have any answer for Justin Jefferson. Like I believe Adoree Jackson is out, and like the Giants really do not have the talent to keep up. I mean, even if you think Kayvon Thibodeau is going to get like 4 sacks, that still means Kirk Cousins is going to drop back 40 other times and find Justin Jefferson probably on 10 of those and hit 2 or 3 gritties in this game. Then like as far as like comfy clicks, like DJ Moore is one of those guys that is just going to project well from like a cash kind of thing, and that's just like the kind of play that I want to avoid, especially on a week where like there's so much uncertainty. Like, what are we doing playing like chalk DJ Moore? Um, and then the Giants again, like it's a comfortable game environment, but do we really want to be playing Richie James and Isaiah Hodgins and Darius Lee into chalk?
Yeah, I really hate those three players at chalk just because like you know they're not chalk because they're smash plays. They're chalk because of their environments in their games and domes and their price. Like I get that the Minnesota Vikings are not the best pass defense and they're a bit of a funnel there, but uh that's not what the Giants want to do. Like that's just not how the Giants want to win football games. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So I don't know. I do think that if you get the one guy right, because there is a chance that one guy kind of consolidates, and there is a world where one guy smashes, but with all three, and I'd rather just go somewhere else. And then DJ Moore, I have some concerns there at ownership as well.
yeah,
Just the Lions are a dangerous ass team right now, and Aiden Hutchinson, he's not in the running, I think, for defensive rookie of the year at all or anything, but like he's very
Barnett.
disruptive and he's a big, and what is their quarterback's name even? Like I could just see this being a problem.
For who? Oh, it's for Darnold. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
Darnold's
yeah,
going to be seeing ghost.
yeah.
Yeah, so
And then
we'll talk about receiver. We'll talk about receiver as we kind of go through the game environments
yeah,
more in depth, and then tight end Hawkinson. Dude, again, it's these dooms like Hawkinson and Schultz. A little pricier than your average like cash type tight end, but I think like if you want to, like in this like placeholder build, I actually have like more than enough money for Hawkinson, so then I might go up to to Henry over Saquon. So that's one option. And then it seems like the consensus pay down is Bellinger as people try and fill tight end with their 20% owned quarterback. So like my first build had Dimes and Bellinger and Richie James, and now I just feel like an absolute total chalk donkey playing like these garbage guys that are gonna get 5 points each.
yeah. Regarding Dalton Schultz, I really wish like isn't there like a so rare game or something like that, or there's one of these card game things where it's like you don't actually get the name of the player, you get like Dallas tight end. Like
Oh,
if I could play Dallas
that's
tight end, like that would be the greatest play in history because like Schultz has like
are you worried
decent
about Peyton
usage.
Hendershot?
Yeah, I mean it's nice that Ferguson's out, but then Hendershot caught like a
Yeah,
25-yard pat. Like Dallas they love the tight end position, but it's just so hard to like get it right in terms of like when is Schultz going to actually get the touchdown, and it's very maddening situation. So
R.I.P.
I'm
Waxbro.
going to play some Schultz, but I am scared of playing Schultz at 14% while any other tight end is dressed.
Yeah, I don't think it like I think Hawkinson and Bellinger get the most, and then Kelsey is going to be on a lot of Mahomes teams. Noah Fant with like I think it's a really good spot. Like Kansas City has given some up to tight end, and if Seattle's going to have to pass to keep up, and Kenneth Walker is going to be banged up if he plays at all. If we knew that Noah Fant was healthy, I think he'd be like just as
Yeah.
owned as Bellinger. But because like it's 10 o'clock and it's Christmas Eve, and people aren't fully paying attention to the slate, all they've heard is like Noah Fant may or may not play. If he's out, Will Disley at 2,700 becomes an absolute smash, and I don't think that ownership is going to get all the way there. But
But can
in
I
the
just say
transfer,
something though? Like,
yeah,
even if he isn't out, I do think that you want to consider playing a little bit of Disley. Like,
sure. In
I
stats,
don't think he's going to get a full workload, and I also think that with Tyler Lockett out, they're going to run double tight end sets, and like he's a target that Gino does like a little bit. So at
yeah,
2,700, again, we're talking leverage and price.
yeah,
I think he's in play,
yeah.
and I'd rather Fant did play with that being the case.
Yeah, I mean, he does a lot to help you fit Mahomes for sure. And then another one that I wanted to talk to you about is Jordan Akins. We were there. We played Jordan Akins when he got 0 points, and then I don't remember talking about him when he actually had a good game last week. So now are we going to be back on Jordan Akins against the Titans here? Pass funnel
No,
twenty nine
no,
hundred.
but no, but I am upset about it. The reason I'm not is because I've
You're
galaxy
punishing.
brained. I've come full circle into playing Brandon Cooks into his 14 targets today. So no, Mr. Akins, you will not have me on board today.
Yeah. So this is what I have as like a placeholder. If I were to be playing cash, like you can fit Henry, Minshew, Hawkinson. Like you could also go down from like Hawkinson to Bellinger, and then I would probably get up off of DJ Moore. And like DK, I think makes a lot of sense if you can get up to Amon St. Brown and back down to Saquon. But like something like that, I think is going to be like the 2v2 off of a core like this. So that's the chalk. Let's get into the fun stuff. Speaking of fun stuff, we got Buffalo at Chicago, 40 total. Buffalo 8-point favorites on the road. 24-point team total is really not that bad, though it is like quite like I think I saw like the Bills average like 28 a game. The Bears give up like 29 a game, and Buffalo's team total is only 24. So keep that in mind. Um, of course. So no one in this game is going to get any ownership, and you're going to talk dirty to me about Josh Diggs and Fields, I assume.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously it's not the greatest spot, but you're talking about Josh Allen is, he's the top 3 quarterback in the NFL. He's, I don't actually believe anybody's like loves the bad weather or cold weather or snow weather kind of stuff like that. But if there is anybody who has the most experience playing in it and can just work through it, it's a guy like Josh Allen. So if
Yeah.
you're going to give me Josh Allen at 3% against the worst defense in the NFL, who I'm not even joking, literally their defense is third string.
Yeah.
You know, like it's
Well, they
really bad
traded like
defense.
half
So
of their. They
right,
traded all their relevant players.
yeah, they traded the actual decent players, and then the future building pieces that do look good, a little hand in the dirt on the Bears,
Yeah.
are all on IR. Like the last one went on IR. So you do have a couple nice kids out there. I forgot earlier, Jaquan Brisker, the safety, and the corner
Yeah.
Kyler Gordon, but they're young and they're aggressive and they do dumb stuff. And anyway, Buffalo's in a smash spot here, and I think they'll find a way to score points, and I hope that those points are going to come through Josh Allen, Devin Singletary, and Stephon Diggs. I'm
Yeah.
not playing anyone outside of them. I don't like Knox this week. I don't like Gabe's game style this week, and
Yeah.
Cook I'm a little bit concerned about, but with him at 4,900, 5,000, I'm not as concerned at that price point. But
Yeah.
and then on the other side of the field, I don't even know what there is to say anymore about Justin Fields. Like he obviously is not ready to be a successful passing quarterback, and now the weather conditions are going to tamper that. But he's an ungodly athlete, and he can get loose in this game. So I'm going to play some of that at no ownership,
Yeah.
and then I'm going to play some Khalil Herbert at Stoneman 4,000, and you know I'll add that part later. I'll give a little more Khalil Herbert info, but those are the 2 Bears that I'm
Yeah.
going to play. I'm not going to play Komet or try and play a receiver.
Yeah. So are you playing Fields naked with like a Singletary or Diggs on the other side, or are you clicking? You're not clicking Byron Pringle or any of these receivers, right? Like this is just like an apps. Like I understand there's like some injuries that got the Bears here with Chase Claypool and Darnell Mooney, but
Yeah,
like it's an absolute joke to be trotting out
yeah,
Byron Pringle, Dante Pettis, and N'Keal Harry for like the future of your franchise.
yeah. I totally agree. And Cole Komet being 4,400 is like a
Yeah, no, you
really
can't do
big
that.
LOL. You just can't.
Yeah, not in
I
this
just can't
game.
do it. So I'm playing Fields naked with bringbacks, and I'm playing Fields plus Herbie and bringbacks.
Yeah, I was gonna say like Herbie's had good games with Fields, obviously, and with Fields getting there too. So like, and from an ownership perspective, I think there's measurable ceiling here. Like Fields, like you're like 207. He needs 207 yards to break Umar's record, and they've been very vocal about wanting to get him there. That's really the only thing they're going to accomplish as a franchise this season. Respectfully or disrespectfully, take it how you want. So yeah, this like the rushing proc for Fields is like 77. So it really doesn't take much imagination to have him go a bit over that, get to the 100-yard bonus, gets in the end zone 1 or 2 times, whether it's rushing or passing. And that's going to, be very, very meaningful this week. And I like Singletary. McKenzie and Knox, man, like I think that they're better expectation than Gabe Davis, but I think they're just like slightly too expensive, even at 4K, for the
Yeah.
ceiling that I think they probably bring this week. So I'm probably mostly off it. I think I do like Fields more than Josh, and I kind of like the Singletary call. Man, just let's try not to spend too much time here. New Orleans,
Nope.
Cleveland, 32. Taysom Hill, like just like a funny quirk thing. Like my formula just pulls whichever quarterback is listed as the best projected on the team, and that is actually Taysom Hill over Andy Dalton. So a funny little thing there. Chubb or Kamara, any like we're obviously not playing any pass catchers here. Like I don't think you can even game theory like talk yourself into Rashid Shaheed. Like no, just don't do it.
Yeah.
And I'm
No,
off both Kamara and Chubb. What about you?
I'm off this game like 100% completely.
Yep.
Completely off this game. I do look forward to seeing the red zone highlights of stupid plays or stuff that happen involving like Taysom.
Yeah. I
But
wish Taysom well.
Yeah, I mean Taysom can smash here. Who knows? Not for my money.
Yeah. No.
Kamara, I heard
Andrew.
early talk
Yeah.
about people wanting to play Kamara. I would strongly suggest you
The
didn't do
Saints don't
that.
want you.
Like
The Saints don't want to
the
play Kamara.
Saints don't want to. Last thing I'll say is just I am curious if Eno's going to be active today and if he's has any sort of role, but that's not DFS relevant.
Yeah. All right. Houston at Tennessee, 35 total is really not that much higher. But there is obviously more interest here with, Derrick Henry going to be in line for 20 plus, if not close to 30 touches. No one else is really getting any ownership here. Anyone outside of Henry? And are you like kind of correlating, or are you just like jamming Henry by himself?
Um, I've talked myself into Brandon Cooks. I'm gonna play Brandon Cooks. I don't really understand why Brandon Cooks is playing Brandon Cooks. Like why Lovey
Dude,
Smith is
he's
playing
bought
Brandon
back in.
Cooks. But they don't have a whole lot of receivers, and Chris Moore has played really well, and but Brandon Cooks is still just a better athlete. And I guess the biggest reason I'm talking myself into it is that Davis Mills is kind of repeating last year, where it's like at the end of the year, he kind of seems at least competent, to be an average-ish quarterback. And if
Mm-hmm.
there's a negative game script and if he's competent, then I see the 10 target Brandon Cooks world on the other side of my Derrick Henry stuff. And yeah, I'm on board. No Chig for me this week.
Mm-hmm.
Treylon Burks
Oh yeah, he's
is
back.
something that I would have liked to have had some interest in, but with Malik Willis at quarterback, that's just not possible.
No, I
It's
don't think
just
you can
not
do that.
possible. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's Derrick Henry and it's Brandon Cooks and
Yeah.
Collector Splansky's.
Yeah, it wouldn't shock me if at some point we see Malik Willis have 100 yards and a touchdown, but probably not for my money this week. And then I think I do want to be below the field on Derrick Henry, um, just because like he really can only get there with 102. Like if you give Henry 101 and even give him like some receiving work, he's not going to get there. So I think I'm just going to fade the 2 touchdown game from Henry for the most part. But I do like the Brandon Cooks call. I think at 4,900, like relative to let's say DJ Moore, like I don't think you're giving up, that much in ceiling, if anything. So
Right. And
I do like
earlier in
that
the
call.
season, he
Have
was
fun.
that awkward 6K guy,
Yeah,
5,800. And I just feel like sub 5K is just, there's some interest there, especially with, Davis Mills playing at least average. And also that whoever that other guy is throws sometimes, you know, maybe that
I
helps
don't know
with
if,
Cooks
if
on the field.
you can play Jeff
Driscoll.
Driscoll mini if you're playing Showdown. Seattle, Kansas City. This is an interesting one because there's not really much wind. There's no snow. It's just cold. And I think actually this total just went up to either 50 or 50 and a half. I don't have that automated. So Kansas City 29.75 total is number one on the slate. Seattle at 20, but it doesn't take much for them, to get over that. DK Metcalf is going to be the highest owned, I think, of these guys. I think, Mahomes, McKinnon, Juju, Kelsey all get like moderate, like they're like kind of second tier. Chalk, do you like stacking this game up, or you know, you can be over
Yeah,
on this environment?
I hand built a couple lineups with this game, one with Gino and one with Mahomes. I do like some stuff here. You know, did not practice,
Yeah, Ken
and
Walker's.
likely to play for Kenneth Walker. Like that's a really frustrating
And
like
they elevated 2 running backs.
line. But he's also like really talented, and they don't have other competent dudes to run the ball. And he got all his targets last week. I think Homer fumbled, and you know that is a bit of a soft spot, I think, for Kansas City's defense. Like, I'm terrified of Kenneth Walker today, so I'm going to play one lineup with him in it, just
Yeah, like
expecting
Walker if he's
to
in.
get smashed. And I'm playing Gino with Walker with DK. And
Yeah.
then on the other side, you know, Mahomes is still carrying a little bit of ownership at 8,400, 11%. I guess that's quite a bit, but
Yeah, it's not
um,
that bad.
I like Juju. I like Juju on the other side. I'm not getting to the Kansas City running thing just because, it's like the Giants we talked about before. Like, Kansas City just doesn't really want to run the ball. I mean, they do. I feel like they do it because they feel like they have to. And like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, Pacheco did get 15 carries, 86 yards, and
Set your clock to it.
McKinnon at 5,900. I understand why he's 5,900. Like, he's earned that price increase, but tell me that doesn't just feel so gross. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna play this as a Mahomes Juju thing,
Yeah.
with Kelsey in that stack, and then bring it back with like either Goodwin or DK. But
Yeah,
that
I
gets
think Goodwin.
expensive. That gets real expensive.
It does. And then you're looking for the punt running backs. I think that's why McKinnon is going to be on a lot of those teams. Juju is one of my favorite players on the slate, as is Pacheco. Just from like I think that their pricing is like very fair. There's some, I think floor is very important this week, where I think it's going to be a low scoring week with paths to upsides. I think Pacheco has that because 15 to 20 touches on this Chiefs team projected to score 30 when his other backfield mate is going to be, 5 to 10% higher owned than he is. I
Mm-hmm.
think, it does a lot for you. And then Juju is like a price pivot off of DJ Moore. And I think like I'd much rather have Patrick Mahomes, like wide receiver 1 or like tight end 2 or whatever you want to call Juju, than, Sam Darnold's number 1. So I like that. Like, I'm all over this game. I'm struggling with like, can you play DK Metcalf, or should you try and like game theory and get off it? I think I'm gonna just try and be, pick someone different but not DK. Like, I think I'm gonna go and just jam DK. I think like he's got a path to 12, 15 targets this week.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but this is a good game, and like I don't think the weather matters there at all.
Yeah, I don't either.
Giants and the Vikings in the Dome is going to be like, I think that the chalk cash team is going to have like at least 2, if not like 4 players from this game. So obviously keep that in mind. Like my first build was a dimes double with Dalvin and Justin Jefferson bring back, and those are all going to be owned. I'm starting to reconsider what tournaments I play that in. Is there any chalk guy, like who are your favorite plays from this game, or are you going to be kind of under it?
I'm definitely going to be under overall on this game, but my 2 favorite plays are the running backs. I really like Saquon Barkley in this spot. I think this game sets up really well for him, and I'm going to be playing a bunch. And then Dalvin Cook on the other side. I like that type of uglier game style with a lot of running and screens and clock running, and yeah, I'm mainly just playing those 2. I do have a dimes version that I did of the lineup you posted that I don't like that much, but for small field, I think it works and gets me a little Justin Jefferson exposure, so I don't have him fully faded. But yeah, I'm mostly playing the 2 running backs.
Yeah, so I was talking about, and this I think has gotten kind of steamy. So like, keep that in mind depending on where you're playing. But like a team like this, like these, what is this, 6 players or 5?
Five.
And
Bellinger
whatever
and
defense. Like I'll just
James.
plug this in. Like then you have 6K per to play for running back, receiver, and flex. I like this in like a small tournament
Yeah,
where you're just playing for this game to reach its expectations, but all the pieces are going to be owned. So I'm like less pumped about playing it in like a mid to high tournament there. Slayton, I think, is probably my favorite play relative to ownership, and I think Saquon actually probably gets squeezed out because he's more expensive than Dalvin, and like people don't want to click him as much as Henry and CMC. So I do like Saquon and Slayton the most relative to ownership in this game because like
Yeah,
Richie James is like people are just clicking Richie James. Slayton at 5,200 is just it's harder to fit that. So I would go out of my way. Like he's the deep ball guy, and like in this game in the dome, you don't have that concern relative to like pretty much any other game on the slate.
yeah.
Cincy at New England, 41.5 total is actually fifth on this slate. Since he's 3-point favorites on the road. Not a whole lot of ownership here. I think Jamar Chase, like I don't believe this 10%. I've seen enough or heard enough around, the industry, people talking him up that I think he comes in closer to 15, maybe even 20%. Even then, I think he's a good play. And then New England, it's like kind of unknown if Damian Harris is going to play. Keep an eye on that. If he's out, I really like Ramondre. And then like the pass catchers, people seem to not care that Mac Jones is the quarterback because I've seen a lot of talk about, all different types of New England pass catchers.
Yeah. I haven't been able to build anything using a single piece from this game, and it might stay that way. I don't know. I do think Jamar Chase is in a smash spot. I want to spend my money differently. Well, other play because I'm on Diggs is what's bringing me down on Jamar Chase, and then you of course have that Belichick narrative, in terms of him taking out your top weapon, your top guy,
Yeah.
selling out to stop Chase, and I
Yeah.
don't know. And then it's mostly because when I don't like the other side of a game, that's what really gets in my way in terms of making stacks. Instead
Right.
of just doing the no bring back and stuff, which has kind of gotten a little bit more popular this year. But yeah, I can't imagine playing anybody on New England today. I understand why you would play Ramondre Stevenson, but man, 7,100 is that's a lot of money. I don't
Yeah.
know.
If Damian Harris is out, I think I really, really like Ramondre because he's this like pretty much same price as Dalvin. And I would just play that he's, going to be healthy and have that 20 plus point and 20 plus touch, ceiling. And I think Jacoby, like I'm not super pumped about Jacoby. I think he's going to be a comfortable click. And then Nelson Aguilar, I don't believe the 6%. I think he's going to actually be in cash games as he was last week.
Yeah,
But Tyquan Thornton, Buddy Tim pointed out, he played 33 out of 35 pass snaps for the Patriots last year. So you can see a rising rookie, and at 3K, like it's not the game environment you want, but definitely keep him in your player pool in stacks at like literally stone minimum. And he's
yeah,
playing. He's nearly every down player at this point. With Devontae Parker out, and he's going to be out. So I think like relative ownership, like Taekwon versus Aguilar, actually, I think Taekwon is actually a pretty good click in an MME type field. And I'm just like fading the noise around like Belichick taking out the top guys. Like if
yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
let's say they're playing the Titans, like yeah, you sell out to stop Derrick Henry, but dude, if you sell out to stop Jamar Chase, like T Higgins is gonna ball over you, and like Joe Mixon, Samaje Perine, like having a lot of weapons prevents Belichick from like you can't scheme him out.
Yeah, yeah, I get it.
So I
It's one of
like I
those
like
things
Chase.
where if I was playing more lineups, I would definitely be a
Yeah.
bunch more interested. Just I'm narrowing my lineups this week, and they're
Yeah.
not making my cut.
Yeah, I like Burrow and Chase. I want to keep an eye on this ownership. If Chase is like 20%, I'm like, I still kind of actually like that because I think he'll be behind Justin Jefferson for sure. And I
Yeah,
don't think the gap is as big as people are making it out to be, um, relative to price. The short Carolina, 43.5 total, pretty good for this week. Amon-Ra and DJ Moore are going to be kind of like in that second tier receiver chalk, but I don't think anyone in this game is going to be, super high. So license to play who you want. Is there anyone that you want to play here?
yeah. If, I'm definitely going to play some Amon Ra St. Brown. I do like Swift at this price and at this ownership. Swift is more of an interest for me, especially after those 9 targets last week. Obviously, there's nothing guaranteed ever with Swift. Like
No.
it
Yeah.
could just be he plays all the snaps. It could be he plays below 50% of the snaps. He gets targets. He doesn't. It's literally just a coin flip. But when you lower his price and you take out ownership, it makes it much better to be able to swallow that, to take that. And then, I also like a little bit of DJ Shark here, like mainly from a price point perspective, but
Yeah.
I think that,
Took a bunch of
he's
snaps.
in those downfield targets and stuff like that. Carolina's pass defense is bad, and I don't know how many snaps Jameson Williams is playing, but I my I imagine that
I think Shark is
Jameson
close to every
Williams
down.
is right for sure. But I'm saying what I'm building the case for is like as wide receiver 3, like Josh Reynolds versus the threat that is the game breaker Jameson Williams. I think that really helps a DJ Shark. Like his JMO draws attention, right? Like
Yeah.
nobody's scared of Josh Reynolds or anything like that,
And rightfully so.
So I think DJ Shark's in a nice spot. And then on the other side, I've been burned too badly on Donta Foreman. I can't go there. Plus, Chuba Hubbard just seemingly keeps getting more and more work.
Yeah.
I'm not quite getting to Chuba, but I tip my cap to anyone that wants to play Chuba just because he's getting like decent run for that price under 5K.
Time Traveler
And then,
Big T played Chuba, and I don't know how you ended up on Chuba without the time machine.
Yeah. Without seeing those last 2 games, I don't know how you can play Chuba. Now that I've seen the last 2 games, I can understand if somebody played Chuba. But anyway, and then DJ Moore at chalk, I don't like it. I do, I do think it's a decent spot. Where it wouldn't surprise me if DJ Moore had a game, but
I think
I like to stack this up a little bit for a contrarian stack.
Yeah. If people don't like and subscribe, TD doesn't eat. I don't know why I said that. It's going to be my family that doesn't eat. Panthers D at 2,300, I think, is interesting from like pass attempts, like Jared Goff, outdoors type thing. At like they're one of my like in builds are really squeezed for price. Like the Bears defense at 2K, Eagles defense 2,200, Panthers like they're all like viable. Like don't play chalk defense on this slate. There's no reason to do the Chiefs.
I have to rant. I think that Carolina defense has a negative score twice this year. In both those weeks, I've had them basically fucking locked. I'm curious about it, and I just can't click it. I can't click. I'm playing Philly or Dallas. Like, I can't click it. I'm so triggered off the earth by it.
600. Yeah, I mean, the Panthers defense is not good, but it's really just like they're at home, and trying to get some weird balls. Amon-Ra, like at 14%, I think I want to be all over this. Like he's very, very live to lead the slate in targets. Like I think, him, DK Metcalf, Justin Jefferson, and he's, cheaper than all of them and probably less owned than all of them. So I think Amon-Ra, like there's no reason to over account for, weather stuff. Like weather, like might only help Amon-Ra. Like what's his ADOT? It's like super low. So I think if the lines are moving the ball, like 23 is a fairly decent total. Like if the lines are moving the ball and getting to that, I think it's going to be, via Amon-Ra and Swift in like the short passing game.
Easy. We would be remiss if we didn't at least mention Sex Jamal Williams. I mean, he's down to 5,200. We all know he has to fall in the end zone twice. My question is, are you playing it at all? No.
I've not.
Me neither.
Yeah, I've not clicked Jamal Williams once this year, and maybe once. And today won't be the second time.
It's nice to know how we'll die. Now I know.
Yeah. Atlanta's at Baltimore, 34.5 total. We have Tyler Huntley and Desmond Ridder, who may combine for 200 passing yards. Dobbins might get some ownership, and that's pretty much it in this game. I know you mentioned you're kind of lukewarm on Dobbins. Is there anyone else here that you find yourself clicking?
No. I heard the only trying to say he might play Tyler Huntley and Mark Andrews in the 555. Like, good luck with that, sir.
Yeah.
No, I can't do any of that stuff. Desmond Ridder looks so bad. Bad. Like, I know rookies are in a tough spot. It's a tough league. It's late in the year, but he just looks like he's a project. Like, he needs a lot of work, and I don't know that Arthur Smith is the guy that's going to get him there. Not in week 16 anyway. So a little bit of Daubers, and that's it. Nothing else to say.
Obligatory Drake London's target share the last 2 weeks has been like 40 or so %, but if Desmond Ritter throws the ball 20 times, I think that would be like higher than expected. So 40% of 20 is 8 targets. I don't want 8 targets of Drake London at 4,800, but if you think for some reason they throw more, that could do something for you. And yeah, I'm not really on the passing game. Like I mean at 2%, like I get it. Like if you played out the slate a million times, Tyler Huntley for
Yeah.
sure gets there more than 2% of the time. I think Mark Andrews. In 5,500, like the price has been reduced enough where you've de-risked it, and he's like pretty much the same price as George Kittle. He's not much more expensive than TJ Hawkinson. He's had a ceiling with Huntley last year. I just don't know that this is the game. Like there's no, like, I don't think Atlanta is going to put up much of a fight here.
Right. And
They'll
Harbaugh has
do their
shown
run.
he just wants to do exactly what is necessary to just win the game.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Like this is very much like Huntley is just keeping this. Like they don't need, like there's times where the backup quarterback comes in and like the coach might want to see like what do we have in the backup.
right. No, he doesn't want to see none of that.
No, he wants to see Tyler Huntley hand the ball off to J.K. Dobbins and
Yes.
Edwards. Washington, San Francisco, 37.5 total. Christian McCaffrey is going to be very high owned, I think rightfully so. McLaurin getting some ownership. Man, I guess his role obviously with Heineke is very good, but I don't know. I can't see people clicking too many guys against the San Francisco defense. Anything you like in this game besides CMC? I know you talked a little bit about Purdy.
Yeah. I really like this Dotson spot. Mainly from a price leverage situation, right? As we talked about. I mean, $3,900, and like he's starting to build a relationship a little bit with Heineke. And there's also this narrative out there that Wentz is healthy and Wentz is the backup by choice. And for whatever reason, well, I guess I understand the reason because it's not that good, but Heineke does not have just carte blanche to do whatever he wants. Like he's on a tight ass leash. And so if Heineke does for whatever reason get pulled, I think that's net even, if not a gain for Dotson. So at 3,900 without the risk of the quarterback situation, I really like that on the other side of San Francisco stacks. I think Logan Thomas is playable at 3K. I'm not playing him, but I think he's playable as a tight end punt as leverage. And Brock Purdy CMC is a big interest of mine. I do also like playing George Kittle. I do not like 5,300. I don't like that price, but that's why I don't think the 9%, 10% is accurate. I think literally nobody's going to play George Kittle. And, I think that these Vegas information, these Vegas totals is kind of giving Washington a little bit too much credit on their defense. And I think there's a world where San Francisco just rolls.
Yeah. I like if this game goes into the 40s, I don't know that it's going to be Washington scoring against San Francisco. I think it's going to be up to Shanahan to decide how much he wants, CMC to impose his will versus like, I don't know who's the backup now. I don't know if I don't have.
Yeah, Mason's out. Mason's on
Mason's
IR,
out.
right?
Like this just got my attention. Like how Juszczyk is showing up as their RB2.
Right.
So keep an eye on that. And the other thing to keep in mind, there's not going to be much late swapping here. So enjoy the time with your family or enjoy the time just sweating red zone without having to go back to your lineups. There's only this game and the Dallas Eagles game. So, your swap options are going to be limited. If you start with CMC and like your early games go not so well, then obviously you go to like AJ Brown, things like that. But yeah, Jahan Dotson, obviously the Dotson CMC mini is probably my favorite on the slate. Not to spoil too much from what, our end of show segment, but dude, Dotson, if I'm going to lose money, I might as well lose it on guys that I like. And, Jahan Dotson, like every time for some reason, the football team is like, has a lot of nationally televised games. And like all that dude does is make big plays. He's not the biggest guy in the field, but he's a really good deep ball guy. And early in the year with Wentz, like he showed like he was their top red zone guy. So
right.
Like Washington, I guess they're still kind of fighting, but I think they want to see obviously how much can they force feed Jahan Dotson, their first round pick towards the end of the year. I really, really like the Dotson 3,900. He's like, the price pivot off of the Giants guys too.
And I think just real life hand in the dirt, like it's a really good situation for a rookie with the talent level of Jahan Dotson to be on the other side of a guy like F1. Like F1's a really talented, good receiver that defenses scheme for. And like, that's just a good way to come up when you're a guy like Dotson. It's like,
Yeah.
and now they're taking advantage of that opportunity, and he's paying it off.
Any Ayuk for you? 6,300 is like shockingly
Zero,
expensive. Yeah.
zero. That
Yeah, I guess
price
if it's
point
30, I'd
is
go
just
CMC and
toxic.
Kittle.
Yeah.
Yep. And then last game of the slate, Eagles at Cowboys, 47.5 total. Nice warm Jerry World. 26 for Dallas, 21.5 for Philly is really not that bad. The line got all the way to 6 when Hurts was out. Now it's at 4 or 4.5. I think Minshew is like fairly capable as a backup. And then I don't know if like the Eagles are gonna like see what they have in Minshew. Like I think Minshew is Minshew, but like they're not gonna just roll over and die. Like I think they care a little bit about not getting totally embarrassed against Dallas. So I think this game could be pretty competitive. No one is going to be super high owned like Minshew, I guess, but it's quarterback. You can, play a quarterback at 15%, not worry too much.
Yeah, I mean we've done this bit, a few times this season, but like I mean AJ Brown at 8% owned, like I'm never gonna understand how that's the case. I will say today I'm more terrified than any other slate that this game and the Giants Minnesota game are actually flipped. And this is the game that's like
Mm.
totally overowned just because
Oh,
I don't know. I
uh,
just see if I just think it's because of the Giants. The Giants want to slow the game down, run, and blah blah blah. If a game was going to be a total track meet, like I could see this game turning into that. And I hope to God that doesn't happen because I'm playing this game a bunch of different ways. The main ways I'm playing it is, with Gardner Minshew with doubles with AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, and Dallas Goddard. With Goddard back, Quez cannot be played. Do not click him, especially when on the other side there's the same price guy, Noah Brown, who's actually a part of their offense.
mm-hmm.
And on the Dallas side, I tried looking at that Dak. I want in my head, I want to fire up a Dak stack. I think it's because I'm thinking of like last year or 2 years
Yeah,
ago
there's no,
before the ankle where he could put up
yeah,
35. He literally can't anymore. I don't think his ceiling is much more than 25. So I can't play Dak, but this is a spot where I'll play some Tony Pollard. I think he's going to be 10% tops. And then,
yeah,
Dalton Schultz, Noah Brown at 3,600. Michael Gallup, 4,200. I love stacking this game up.
yeah. I don't want to get too into the game logs, but I think like the reason why the Dak, like I think Dak like is still a pretty good NFL quarterback, obviously, but like the
I do
reason the
too.
ceiling's not there is like pass attempts, dude. Like Dallas does not want to throw the ball more than 30 times unless they have to. Like they were trailing in this Houston game and they got to 39. And then this overtime game against Green Bay, 46. Every other game, he's like, you can set your clock to Dak Prescott having between 25 and 30 pass attempts. And like
Right.
it's really hard. Like you saw it like last week, he had 3 touchdowns and he got 22 points. Like, is that
Right.
enough to make you
That
like
right
relatively
there. Yeah. That
like
right there is just infuriating. He
yeah.
threw
So like
three
that's enough to
touchdowns
get
and
you.
put up 22.
Yeah, so that's like enough to like get you there, but it's going to be hard to see Dak being the reason why you win. But then
Yeah.
again, like quarterback is probably not that. CD Lamb at again like it's the classic thing with CD Lamb for me. Like I don't think he really like in this offense. I don't think he has like that ceiling at that price. I think you're paying a lot for certainty. Like CD Lamb is probably a pretty safe bet to get to 15. His chances to getting to 25 are not not for me. I do like
Yeah.
Schultz. I like Dallas Goddard a lot too. I think Minshew has shown like propensity to throw to running backs and tight ends, and Dallas Goddard, I think
Yeah.
is going to
My
be
only concern with Goddard is like, what exactly is his health? Like, is there any pitch count? Is there any concern at
why would they
all?
bring
Like,
him back? Here's the thing though, like
I wouldn't,
I have to
yeah.
imagine they wouldn't bring him back if he wasn't healthy because like like Jalen Hurts being out, like why
Yeah.
they're not obviously not going all out to win this game. If they're like, they rule Jalen Hurts out early, like I don't think they would throw Dallas Goddard, into the slaughter if he wasn't healthy enough to play. Yeah, he was
That's
close
a
to
good
coming
point
back.
by Warsh. Yeah.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
was close to coming back last week. I think at
Yeah.
4,500, like I'm actually kind of off Devontae Smith, and like I think AJ Brown ends up getting closer to like 10 or 12% because he's an alpha. Devontae Smith sneakily like led the Eagles in target share while Dallas Goddard has been out. So I think Goddard sneaking his way back in steals more from Devontae Smith's plate because AJ Brown
Yeah,
is gonna have to get fed.
for sure. One other thing I'll say regarding like Dak is, well, I guess it's also regarding the running backs. When they do get inside like the 5 yard line, like you can guarantee that they're going to run at least twice, maybe 3 times, and
Yeah,
that has an effect on Dak's ceiling as well.
yeah. All right, that's the slate. Who can the people fuck around and find out are going to ruin
Well,
their Christmas
this
Eve if they don't play?
this might be a good time to mention none of this is financial advice. You
Oh
probably
no,
make a lot more money just purely fading any words that come out of either of our mouths. But
oh come on, man.
GFY all around. Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy Hanukkah.
You got to try to share
Today
it with
I
the people.
am going to fuck around and I'm going to play Stephon Diggs across from Khalil Herbert. Little mini
Yeah.
stack. The 4K Khalil Herbert is a perfect offset to that 8,300 for Stephon Diggs. It's not the best weather, but the Bears defense is real, real bad. Buffalo has shown in the past they can score a lot of points even in bad weather. And for my money, I'll do that against the Bears. One thing I wanted to add earlier, I'll just add now.
Hmm.
Obviously, we always are concerned about coach speak, like what's bullshit, what's real, what's not real. The Bears, both their offensive coordinator and their head coach talked about Herbert coming back this week and like that they desperately need those fresh legs this time of year. So, and Herbert is in his second year. Monty is going to be a free agent. And I just see it shaping up where Khalil Herbert can touch the ball 10 times. And,
Oh yeah, I
for
mean he
my
gets
money,
like
10
touches.
times in this weather at 4K, he can pay that tag off. And you do have a bit of a ceiling there. And Monty's, he's he could always go down. He could always,
Sure.
his role could increase. So I really like this play. Fuck around and find out. We'll see what happens.
I like the fresh legs narrative too.
Yeah, who
In
knows if it's true?
Herbert. No, no, like at this time of the year, like I think that's a big reason why you see like guys like Derrick Henry and then like random guys like Zonovan Knight. Like you're coming, off the bench or like you're just like the biggest man in the field. Like when it starts to get cold, when people are like everyone playing in the NFL is injured at week 16, every single one, or
Right.
hurt. Sorry, hurt, maybe not injured. Whatever their joke is. Um, my favorite play at running back is Isaiah Pacheco. His like usage, like the McKinnon thing, I think, like of course, especially if you have him in best ball, he's been great. Like you've gotten what you paid for and then some. And like this target usage is insane for McKinnon. 9 targets, 8 targets. But dude, he scored like 4 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks to get you those 30 points. And he's gotten 10 carries, 6 carries. Like if you take off one or two, if you take off 1 or 2 touchdowns, like McKinnon would not be 15%. He'd be like 8%, 5,900. Like I get it, but Pacheco's role, like he gets more touches than McKinnon. 15 carries, 13, 14, 22. The Chiefs
Right.
know who Jerick McKinnon is and they know why he's there. But like,
Yeah.
do they really need Jerick McKinnon to do anything against Seattle? Last week against Houston, they were pushed because they were trailing randomly. The Denver
Right.
game like was randomly competitive. If this game goes how Vegas thinks it does, where the Chiefs are up 10 points, I think they're going to want to see, like, can we trust Isaiah Pacheco in the playoffs? Because they know they can trust McKinnon. So, like, if the Chiefs are, like, kind of playing with their
Right.
food here, I think it's going to come in a Pacheco 20-plus carry game. So,
Uh,
I really like
uh,
Pacheco from a price
not to
perspective.
not to trigger the Pacheco owners from last week, but had he not fumbled, he's clearly getting 20 carries and maybe gets one of those touchdowns.
Yeah.
So, this week it's a fresh week. He came back in that game, so there's no concern like that he's benched or anything like that. You know, it's a
Yeah.
good pick. I like
Yeah.
it.
Like Andy Reid knows, like, you're not going to give McKinnon the ball 25 times in the playoffs.
Right.
So he's got to see, like, do we trust Pacheco or not? Let's go, Trey. Let's go. All right, Ori.
You just picking one player. Wow, we haven't done that. I love it. Pacheco. I'm gonna give you one more, and sorry, but it's Christmas. I know that he's 30% owned, but I'm gonna give you a mini correlation that's not owned.
Oh no.
I'm gonna give you the King Henry specifically on this FAFO to be able to pull off a 30% fuck around and find out. I do think that Derrick Henry 3 catches over 50 yards, so I think they're
There you
gonna
go.
actually some screen
You
stuff.
going Malik Willis for the people?
And then no, we're gonna put Brandon Cooks on the other side. Nobody wants to play Brandon Cooks. Nobody's gonna play him. I like it. I like it as a little bit of leverage off your Henry stacks, and that's gonna be my other one.
Yeah. Henry's probably my least favorite, but I like the idea of playing him with Cooks. I like what are the Titans? 3,600. Just like a macro perspective, like defense is very like Chiefs and down is going to be all the chalk, and then like people might even play the Bears and stuff. So I think paying up for San Francisco or Tennessee in good spots, I think makes a lot of sense. If you wanted to throw that in, with or without Brandon Cooks, but I like the call. And then I kind of teased this before, but CMC and Jahan Dotson is by far my favorite mini. It's a 4 p.m. game. So like if you're like obviously McCaffrey may be the highest owned. I think Henry might come in over him because there's more narrative there. And Dotson, like the usage for him is just an arrow pointing up. 3,900, good price pivot off of the Giants guys, and it's very it's like a luxury to have guys going at 4 o'clock, and when there's only 2 games. And if you have these 2 in here, you can very easily flip it to like an AJ Brown. It's like, let's say like you're whoever your quarterback is, and like your stack doesn't get all the way there, you can easily flip it to AJ Brown and like one of these tight ends, or you can play Miles Sanders, or you can play Tony Pollard. Like there's plenty of guys that are going to be less owned than McCaffrey here in case you end up having to like swap around. But I really do like starting most of my lineups with McCaffrey and throwing Dotson in. So
I love it.
All right, boys. Merry Christmas Eve. Enjoy the time, whether you celebrate or not. We've got 10 great football games. We only have a couple slates left before we get to the playoffs. Save some bullets, but fire good shots on net. Have a
Let's get
happy
a team
holiday.
or two into the finals in best ball. Good luck
Good
with
luck.
your
Good luck
best
to the
ball
best ball
shares,
bros.
people. And yeah, good shit. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah. I'm about to crack open some booze. I haven't decided what, but hope everyone has a good day.
Good day for Bailey's. Good day for Bailey's.
Right?
All right. Cheers, everyone.
See ya.